Ladies and gentlemen, fellow thinkers, sons and daughters of this soil and of the world, welcome to this public lecture titled Not Black, Not European, Just Human, South Africa's Deeper Story. Tonight, we gather not to defend tribes or bloodlines, not to repeat slogans, and certainly not to indulge political theatrics. We gather to speak of something older than nations, deeper than skin, and stronger than ideology, the soul of South Africa. A land too complex to be reduced to race, too ancient to be captured by modern slogans, too universal to belong to any one group. We are told South Africa is a black African country. We are told others are guests, colonists, or outsiders. But I stand here to say South Africa is not black, it is not white, it is not Bantu, it is not European, it is human. It is a story of collision and cooperation, of Khoi and San, of Dutch and Indian, of Zulu and Jew, of Malay and colored, of all humanity walking, fighting, and forgiving on the same soil. This lecture is not about politics, it is about people, not about race, but about what lies beneath it, the human spirit, and not about the past as a prison, but the past as a map to something better. So let us begin. Let us speak not with clenched fists, but open hands. Let us look not into a mirror of bitterness, but into a garden of difference. And above all, let us tell the deeper story of this land we love.
Not black, not European, just human. South Africa's deeper story, a public lecture. Let me caution you. This public lecture strikes the perfect balance between provocation and universality, precisely because it teaches South African history with our truth and nuance, not propaganda. It reclaims the narrative from political reductionism and invites the audience into a mature, transcendent conversation about what South Africa truly is. South Africa's deeper story, a public lecture on identity, humanity, and belonging. Modern ideologies fall into two fatal errors: homogenization, the attempt to erase difference in the name of equality or unity; supremacy, the attempt to elevate one identity as dominant over others. Both result in cultural decay, social division, and spiritual deadness. Whether in the form of racial nationalism, tribal purism, or universalist erasure, the outcome is the same: diversity without dignity, identity without humility, community without communion. This is not a story about race. South Africa, more than any other land, is the laboratory of difference, not rainbow rhetoric, but deep-rooted respect for pluralism as a moral contract. It is not about who was here first or who came last. It is not about skin, tribe, or Pan-Africanism, whatever what that means. It is about something deeper. This is the story of how we belong to each other. Not because we look the same, not because we speak the same language, but because we share the same breath of life, the same ache for meaning, the same longing for peace. To say South Africa is black is to amputate her complexity. To say she is European is to silence her indigenous heartbeat. But to say she is universal is to honor the truth that no single group owns her story. In this garden, each face is a flower, each language a fragrance, each culture a note in the living symphony. But there are those who now preach exclusion in the name of revolution. They speak of borders to be erased for some and redrawn for others. They stir the soil not to grow, but to divide. Let us not forget, nature teaches us a field of only one flower is not beautiful. It is monotonous. But a garden of many faces, that is divine. South Africa must remain that garden. For if she loses her universality, she loses herself. And the world loses one of its last great experiments in human unity. Let us protect her not with slogans, but with vision and love. In a world fractured by fear and divided by politics, South Africa stands not only as a nation, but as a question. Can people of every background truly live together in dignity? Can a land born of collision and contradiction become a home for all humanity? In this lecture, we return to the source, to the Khoi and San wisdom that knew no race, to the cosmopolitan Cape that welcomed ships, spices, and strangers, to the universal truth: we are not black. We are not European. We are human. If we and build a future from that truth, then South Africa will not only survive, it will sing, and the world will listen. South Africa is not African country. The flawed foundation of Julius Malema's Pan-Africanism, nature is wise, so must we be look at the animal kingdom. Look at forests, skies, oceans. Nothing is one color. Nothing is uniform. Uniformity is not beauty, it is limitation. Nature rejoices in variety, asymmetry, tension, and contrast. Why would we, the highest expression of nature, deny that? People ought to try to relate to other people only from the perspective of love, not for any underlying neurotic reasons. But this is easier said than done. Over centuries of migration, different environments shaped appearance, not value, not intelligence, not humanity. We are one blood, one origin, one creator. Skin color is a beautiful byproduct of survival, not a curse, not a superiority, and certainly not a contradiction of God's design. Skin color is controlled by many genes, but the most important factor is melanin. Every human has melanin. The difference is in the type and amount. Some genes increase melanin, leading to darker skin. Other genes reduce melanin, resulting in lighter skin, a medium brown race template where all human beings emerge from, like Noah's family, carry a wide variety of genetic information and produce children with darker skin if both pass on high melanin genes, lighter skin if both pass on low melanin genes, or medium tones. Let me return back to Julius Malema. Julius Malema's Pan-Africanism is a weaponized ideology, not a liberation philosophy. He preaches tribal continentalism, not civic belonging. He imagines Africa as one borderless Bantu republic where skin tone determines access, not shared values or civic responsibility. According to his own words, Zimbabweans, Nigerians, Congolese must find creative ways to cross the border of South Africa and flood South Africa unchecked. That is an irrefutable fact of Pan-Africanism ideology, according to Julius Malema. The Bible never divides people by skin color. It speaks of nations, languages, and tribes, never races in the modern racial sense. Race is a social construct. Genetically, humans are 99.9% the same. Skin color is a surface adaptation, not a fundamental difference. The 0.1% difference in them account for such things as skin color, hair type, and other apparent differences. That is to say that biologically, people from everywhere on planet Earth are more similar than dissimilar. South Africa is a universal country, and always was. The Khoi and San, the true natives of Southern Africa, were not racially obsessed. They saw the universe as interconnected, and people as part of a larger cosmic balance. The Khoi and San were not Bantu African. Their culture, language, and worldview are distinct, older, and more fluid. Southern Africa was a crossroads long before the Bantu migrations, long before European colonization. Blending, not exclusion, is our heritage. The Cape was global by the 1600s. Asians, Africans, Dutch, Khoi, all interacting, blending. That's not Pan-Africanism. That's human universality. The original landowners of the Cape and Southern Coast were not Bantu, they were Khoi, and South Africa is a modern nation formed by collision, cooperation, and complexity. Our indigenous wisdom, Khoi San, offers a cosmic universal worldview where humans are humans, not tribes or races. South Africa's truth is bigger than tribalism, broader than blackness, and older than slogans. It is a universal country where Khoi cosmopolitanism, Cape Creolism, and constitutional civic unity form a new model for the world. After the Tower of Babel, Genesis 11, People spread out across the earth. Those who migrated to Africa and hot climates retained or developed darker skin to survive UV radiation. Those who moved to Northern Europe or Siberia developed lighter skin to absorb more sunlight for vitamin D. This is natural selection, not evolution in the atheistic sense, but adaptation within God's design. All human beings belong to the same animal species. A species are animals that can reproduce with each other. Europeans can reproduce with Africans and Asians, but cannot reproduce with gorillas. For though gorillas look like human beings, they belong to a different species. Biologically speaking, the term race is amorphous and is probably better not employed. Human beings evolved in different geographical locations in the world. Each geographical location had a different environment, compelling animals that want to survive in it to evolve certain biological and cultural mechanisms. Human beings adapted to the peculiarities of their geography. Those who adapted to the cold, Arctic region, like Eskimos, adapted differently than those who adapted to the tropical world of Africa, and those who adapted to the temperate world of Western Europe adapted differently from how Africans adapted to their hot milieu. From birth, every human being begins assembling a self-concept, using their biology, family feedback, memories, language, pain, pleasure, and more. This becomes an inner self-image, a mental mirror. This is who I am. Later, individuals project this image outward, seeking resonance with others, forming relationships, groups, cultures. That is the reason why generally people have easy sense of connectedness with members of their own group. One has to make efforts to relate to those from outside one's group. So a community is not a cause, but a consequence, an echo of many inner identities finding harmony. That's why when identity collapses at the personal level, no political movement can repair the void. People have different self-concepts and approach each other with those different concepts. Each person's concepts is individualistic. That is psychology. Psychology digs into the inner engine, the unseen architecture of thought, feeling, belief, trauma, and healing. Sociology, though valuable, starts from the outer crust. Patterns, behaviors, institutions. But if the engine breaks, the outer crust crumbles. This is why in academia, psychology continues to expand into neuroscience, AI, trauma studies, behavioral economics, etc. Sociology often plateaus because it cannot move unless psychology breathes beneath it. As far as biology is concerned, there is no such category as races. In so that there are races, it is social and cultural construct, not a natural one. From where I'm standing, there is no such thing as race. However, I see culture as extant social reality. Culture is not natural, it is a social construct. It is man-made and can be remade. We construct culture and can deconstruct and reconstruct it. The only acceptable culture is one that serves social interests. Culture, though often treated as sacred, is not sacred in itself. It is not divine revelation handed down on stone tablets. It is a human invention, crafted over time, as a way for people to survive, organize, communicate, and belong within a particular environment. It arises from necessity, not from absolute truth. Clothing traditions arise from climate. Gender roles arise from economic need. Rituals arise from fear of nature or desire for meaning. Language arises from isolation and interaction. And yet in the modern world, people are taught to worship culture even when it no longer serves. Life, when it oppresses, when it fosters division, when it becomes a fossil hardened into identity, culture is pragmatic, not permanent. A culture that once protected women by hiding them may now erase their agency. A culture that once organized tribes for cohesion may now provoke ethnic warfare. A culture that defined masculinity as dominance may now breed domestic violence and social repression. If culture is a tool, we must ask, does this tool still serve life? Or does it now serve ego, fear, and control, reification, when we mistake? The tool for the truth to reify culture means to treat it as eternal, to idolize it, to believe it must be followed simply because it was followed. This leads to cultural fundamentalism, where anything old is deemed good and anything new is suspect, where elders rule with unchecked power and youth are silenced in the name of tradition. This is the paralysis of nations, the stagnation of thought, the death of reform. A living culture must adapt to Khoi, and San knew how to listen to the land. They did not enshrine dogmas. They adapted with the seasons. Their culture was fluid, not fixed. Cosmic, not tribal. In contrast, today many weaponize culture as ethnic ownership, political leverage, or racial proof. But culture must be held lightly, even joyfully, as a costume, not a skin, as something you can dance in, not die for. Change is not betrayal. It is continuation. To change culture is not to betray ancestors. It is to honor them by staying alive. They created culture to serve life. If life now demands change, they would approve. The only acceptable culture is one that serves human flourishing, adapts to truth, and responds to the dignity of others. You are not obligated to preserve the culture you inherited. You are obligated to discern what in it is life-giving and what is life-denying, to update, to merge, to discard what is harmful, and to renew what is noble. Culture is not a god, it is a garment. And when the season changes, it must be reshaped, redesigned, or retired. Let me repeat with the risk of sounding like a broken record. Culture is not sacred. It is not untouchable. It is not divine revelation sealed in stone. Culture is man-made, fluid, and functional. A set of responses, rituals, beliefs, and behaviors developed over time to help human beings survive, organize, express, and relate. Yet, in many societies, culture is treated as if it were eternal law. It is deified. It is reified. It is defended, not because it still works, but because it once worked. This is the tragedy of the modern era, the fossilization of culture into an idol. When a tradition no longer serves human dignity, it is not culture, it is bondage. When a ritual oppresses instead of uplifts, it is not heritage, it is harm. When we preserve customs simply because they are old, even when they are unjust, we are not preserving wisdom, we are preserving wounds. Culture was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to be practical. It evolves from climate, geography, conflict, trade, language, economy, and interaction. The foods we eat, the clothes we wear, the family roles we follow, even our concepts of beauty or honor, these all came from environmental or historical necessity. And what necessity creates, necessity can uncreate. This is not an attack on culture. It is a call to return it to its rightful place. A servant, not a master. A garment, not a skin. A map, not the destination. Those who refuse to reform culture are not preserving their ancestors. They are betraying them. Because the ancestors created culture to serve life. If life demands change, then change is not betrayal. It is obedience. To the spirit of cultural innovation. To reify culture is to make it an idol. To assume that what was is what must always be. This mindset crushes the imagination, paralyzes progress, and breeds violence in the name of identity. It breeds fear, guilt, and false pride. It makes people worship their past while losing their future. This is especially dangerous in multi-ethnic societies like South Africa. When culture becomes a weapon of tribal entitlement or racial supremacy, it ceases to be culture. It becomes ideology. It becomes a cage. Culture must be reimagined, reworked, and if necessary, replaced. Not with arrogance, but with vision. Not out of disdain, but out of care. Because the only acceptable culture is one that serves human flourishing, adapts to truth, and honors the dignity of all. Culture is not a god. It is a tool. And like any tool, when it no longer serves, it must be sharpened, redesigned, or set. Aside, humanity comes first. Culture follows. Conclusion, the future belongs to the universal soul. We have journeyed tonight through science and spirit, through history and hope. We have peeled back the layers of race, culture, and belonging, only to rediscover what was always true. We are not black. We are not European. We are human. South Africa does not belong to one bloodline. It does not speak with one tongue. It does not pray with one voice. It sings with many. And that is its beauty. The Khoi and San, our earliest custodians, taught us not tribalism, but cosmic harmony. They saw the land not as something to conquer, but as something to walk with. They saw difference not as threat, but as design, as nature's divine method for revealing deeper unity. In rejecting tribal conquest and racial entitlement, we do not erase anyone. We welcome everyone. We do not dilute identity. We dignify And in this spirit, we affirm a new covenant for South Africa and the world. A covenant that says we do not need to look the same to live together. We do not need to come from the same root to bear fruit on the same tree. We do not need to erase the past. We need to redeem it. Let this be the generation that refuses to bow at the altar of race, that refuses to turn culture into a god, that refuses to shrink the nation into a tribe. Let this be the nation that finally says, we are many. We are different. We are one. This is the deeper story. This is the covenant of difference. And this is the future, not just of South Africa, but of a humanity worthy of its name. The goal is not cultural purity. The goal is human wholeness. South Africa, with its Khoi cosmology, Bantu migrations, colonial scars, and Creole beauty, is a living mirror of the world's challenge. It is not a black country, not a white country, not a European country. It is a universal country, one whose destiny lies in honoring every story written into its soil. If South Africa signs this covenant in spirit, law, and education, it may yet lead the world. We reject all movements that demand sameness as a condition for belonging. We reject the worship of race, tribe, blood, and banner. We affirm a new covenant to protect difference, to live in harmony without erasure, to embrace all of humanity as sacred, and to rebuild a future not in the image of one group, but in the light of us all. On a personal level, I am black, but I need whites. I am South African, but I need Chinese, Indian, African, and European energies in my life. I feel fully human, not among sameness, but in a room of contrast. On a political level, we need laws that protect minority cultures, education that celebrates heritage, not hegemony, leaders who speak the language of difference is sacred, not difference is danger. South Africa is not just a nation, it is a civilizational stage, a terrain where opposites collide and miraculously converge, a meeting point of first peoples and latecomers, of ancient bloodlines and modern dreams, of African drumbeats and European cathedrals. It is a crucible of complexity that resists simplification and punishes narrow-minded ideologies. To call South Africa merely an African country is to shrink its destiny. It is African, yes, but also Asiatic, European, and cosmopolitan in soul. Its bones are buried with Khoi and San ancestors. Its lungs breathe in Zulu chants and Afrikaans prayers. And its heartbeat echoes in the languages of English, Hindi, Xhosa, and Urdu. Its legal systems, railways, and cities were forged in global iron. Dutch law, British governance, Indian commerce, and African resilience. No other African country carries such layers of world history. No other African country holds within it a microcosm of humanity's contradictions. Gold and poverty, struggle and transcendence. South Africa is not Africa's echo, it is its mirror. And at times, its rebuke. It shows what can go wrong when hate leads and what miracles can unfold when difference is held sacred. This country was not built on sameness. It was built on survival, compromise, and the painful beauty of coexistence. That is why South Africa is a country for all time. Not because it is perfect, but because it wrestles openly with imperfection. Because its soil can hold both the blood of injustice and the seeds of renaissance. Let the world understand, South Africa is not a leftover of empires nor a prisoner of race. It is a universal nation in its promise. The world must look here, not as a charity case, but as a blueprint for the age to come. South Africa must remain that garden, for if she loses her universality, she loses herself, and the world loses one of its last great experiments in human living. Let us protect her not with misguided slogans of divisions and hate, but with vision and love.
South African sun, where the golden plains stretch and run, a land of beauty wild and free. The savannah sings its melody, from the rolling hills to the endless sky. The whispers of nature, oh, they fly high, Karoo's embrace a canvas so wide. In this land we take pride. South Africa, land of the savannah, with dreams that shine like the morning panorama. From the Karoo's heart to the Western Cape, every corner's a story, every moment escape. Cacti reaching for the sunlit glow, where the desert blooms and the rivers flow. Lil Karoo, a jewel of the West, in this ruggedness we find our rest. The colors of dusk paint the sky, as the animals roam and the eagles fly. In the stillness of night, under stars so bright, the spirit of Karoo, it feels so right. South Africa, land of the savannah, with dreams that shine like the morning panorama. From the Karoo's heart to the Western Cape, every corner's a story, every moment escape. In the whispers of the winds we hear the call of ancestors who walk these lands one and all. With every step forward we honor the past. In the land of the savannah, our roots hold fast. South Africa, land of the savannah, with dreams that shine like the morning panorama. From the Karoo's heart to the Western Cape, every corner's a story, every moment escape. So let's sing of the beauty, the wild and true, in South Africa's heart.